So I usually introduce myself as Hawa, a human being. I am a creative artist and a social impact leader. I'm really passionate about impact and social change. So my creative artistry is biased to poetry. So I do mostly poetry. Like I mentioned to you last time, I'm working towards blending choreography and dance to my poetry because I also like dance, and also with what I've discovered about what dancing does to the body and helping it release and all this tension and all these things, it's something I really, really am working towards. I use or employ poetry and art as a tool to drive gender justice, peace building, social cohesion, and really like healing and transformation. I think I've come, okay, my perspective about the work that I do or who I am as a human being. I believe in wholeness, and as human beings, for us to be balanced. If I'm talking to Adeline, why am I looking at only the negative side? Adeline comes whole with a positive and a negative, and that wholeness, how do I embrace it? And I like to use poetry and art to work towards that or to achieve that, because I know that inevitably we are all two. If there is a victim, there is a perpetrator. If there is a bad person, there is a good person. If I'm doing a bad thing, I'm also doing, like, there is that two opposites make it the unit. And I'm also a founder of the Hawa Cares Initiative, an initiative that is fostering fostering leadership that is transformative, that also is more loyal to wholesomeness than being loyal to victimhood or perpetratorship, but also to foster strategic partnerships that help, with achieving social justice, youth empowerment, and gender equity, especially with, women and people that are um, disadvantaged or that are posed with vulnerabilities that make them susceptible to modern slavery, susceptible to harassment, susceptible to all these injustices and inequalities a bit more than the rest of the human race. So the projects that I work on are, how can I, what should I use? Are interconnected. I believe it's an intersection of a number of things. So the core, like I've mentioned, is really social cohesion, interfaith and intercultural collaboration, healing and transformation, and gender equity, gender justice. I'm kind of unpacking equality, because now with with the things that I have learned, because I'm continuously learning, relearning, and unlearning, I'm starting to think maybe equality is very diverse and broad in its aspect. But I believe justice and equity is something that we can actually achieve or have impact on, because the equality I would call equality is going to be different from someone in Bosnia who's undergoing war, from someone in DRC in those mines being exploited, from some, like, it's going to vary. But with justice and equity, it is tailor based or customized to what does Adeline need for her community, what serves her. If she's working with female sex workers, if she's working with nannies or maids, if she's working with people that are like people with special needs, like all these diversities that we have. So if I'm going to do inclusion, I'm going to have to customize all these, uh, tailor them to the particular needs of that context of that community. So I'm working with secondary schools, and I'm using poetry and art as a tool that helps this. So most of my projects are based on mindset shifting. How do I inspire children and youth to shift their mindset from the socialization that is not serving them or is not serving humanity? If it is patriarchy and the misogyny, if it is discrimination and marginalizing people, if it is, perpetrating, like if I was bullied and I'm perpetrating that. So because I realized when I was in a toxic workplace how these things show up actually starts from way back. So the toxic person, the person that perpetrates you, has chosen to be loyal to the perpetrator lineage. And when I'm loyal to the perpetrator lineage, I'm creating more victims. And when I create more victims, these victims choose to either remain victims or to become perpetrators to get the satisfaction. But me doing that does not solve the problem. So it just keeps creating more. More perpetrators create more victims create more perpetrators, and it goes on and on and on. But when I'm whole, I know that as human beings, we are going to have our shortcomings, but we are also going to have our A game. Where am I pulling that A game? And how do I help people that have been victims to this to actually not choose the perpetrator course of action, but to actually choose to do it different and do a paradigm shift or inspire a paradigm shift among the people that they work with or they stay with at home, like even as peers, so that when they are in the workplaces and in all the places that we serve, they do not experience or they do not perpetrate modern slavery or exploitation or weaponizing people's stories against them and their vulnerabilities against them. So the support that I would need, that I would request from Empowerment Collective is we have, I noticed that we have so many alignments with our vision and mission, and we can collaborate, we can work with so many collaborations on different projects as and when they emerge. Also grants, funding in case people could fund some of the activities that I do with schools, with high schools. And like I've said, they are all connected to interfaith and intercultural collaboration, gender justice, and self-reflection and healing and transformation. Because I believe as each unit, as a unit, if a human being reflects and chooses to do better, the ripple effect of it helps the entire community. Yes. So, and another, I think the other support would be capacity building and exchanges, me sharing with you the knowledge I have and the information, but also receiving information and, experience sharing from how things are that side with different communities that you work with, and how that builds my capacity to make me more equipped to actually do this work. I don't believe in expertism, but I do believe there is so many things that I can unlearn or relearn and share with the communities that I work with. Yeah, so those three aspects would be it. If this world hates you, know that it hated me first. Kama dunia imekuchukia, jua natangulia na mimi. If this world hates you, know that it hated me first. Prized out of me its trust, so never do I quench my thirst. Because above me is gravity and below me is upthrust forces that pull and push me away through hell and high water that I find my way to a path filled with skulls, corpses, broken glasses, jumping, skipping, hoping I trot, and I cave into a place I would never crave, the grave, to finally piece the pieces within. But I lay restlessly herein, I lay restlessly herein, I still hear the Homo sapiens on the other side. I hear men crying like women for what they can't defend. I hear men becoming women in bid to mend the rent they fail to mend. I envision them working with fine eyes covered with nets, pockets full of pistols filled with bullets, hearts out of their thoracic cavities. I envision their souls collapsing in unrelenting agony. Best not to lose face, but it's too late. We are verily in total loss, mate. Innocent people lose lives to calamities so artificial. Guilty ones acting superficial. I'm compelled to ask myself, what is this? What happened to shalom, where harmony and laughter were louder than silence? But now life is worse than a death sentence. We live, but as survivors, existing only because Syria, Libya, Ukraine, DRC, Sudan are not our residences. All we do is tweet and Facebook about their occupants' incidences and still remain with the moral audacity to introduce ourselves as human beings. I guess This is what they mean when they say there is a difference between a human being and being human. What happened to Mirembe, where we were more concerned about the neighbor next door than owning Versace's and Louis Vuitton? But now we live encaged in gates and fences, our eyes glue stuck on movies and series that preach distrust, hatred, revenge, and not love, trust, and forgiveness. So now our happiness is derived from antidepressant pills because trusting the media has got us thinking that our closest allies may actually be our greatest enemies, yet we actually pick leaves and Amazons from it. Woe unto us for now, our minds browse and process evil, perceiving it as good business. Our actions are delusion, an illusion of sorts, where we fight for peace and liberty, but we often take paths that lead us to crossroads that get us taking sides. So now Abdurrahim and Ibrahim can hardly talk to Malcolm and Tom, and Flower the miniskati can barely stand Hawa the hijab. What happened to Salam, where unity was an SI unit of humanity? But now humanity has been streamlined, narrowed to flow along religious, cultural, racial, technical know-who lines, unaware that all these are acquired impositions we are born into. And before all that, we are all humans. But we proceed by your means to live like a nest of cockroaches, contaminating and predating whatever surrounds them in the absence of light, while hiding in crevices and camouflaging in the absence of darkness. The only difference is cockroaches do not discriminate. So I'm now unlearning to relearn, to give peace, salam, shalom, and mirembe, not as just names, but attributes. I'm seeking to give peace, salam, shalom, and mirembe. Peace, salam, shalom,